Everyone listens to audiobooks all the goddamn time. And shitty fanfiction is getting turned into shitty books that get turned into shitty movies. A girl, some other girls, some fanfiction, and a really shitty microphone. This is the Fan Official Audiobook.
Hello, people of the universe. As you may or may not know, my name is Iridice, and it is Wednesday here on the Fan Official Audiobook. See, didn't that sound like a much more official intro? I can actually do this. How nice. I'm capable of things. Yay. Anyways, moving on. Sorry about that weird noise, if you heard it. If not, great. Moving on. Again. So, I'm tired. And I know that that's not exactly important, but I don't feel like reading fanfiction right now, honestly. I'm not in the mood. I'm tired. It's been a long day. I'm kind of just tired, I guess. So yeah, I'm not gonna read a lot of fanfiction. Just two, because I don't feel like I didn't want to. I need to watch more movies and TV shows. I don't watch a lot of TV. I should, though. And I didn't feel like looking through the shows that I did know. So instead, I got one fanfiction from a book and one from two movies. It's a crossover. And one of them is written by me. I'll admit to that. I'm too lazy to go and search for more that I don't know are good or not. So yeah, this is what's happened. Moving on. I've said that way too many times. I'm not gonna talk a lot right now, specifically. I'm going to read first, and then we'll talk. And I'll try my best to use up at least most of this hour before I collapse from exhaustion and lack of want to do anything right now. So yeah, we'll see what happens. So, the first one I'm gonna read is the crossover I wrote, which is really good, and you should go check it out. This is some horrible self-advertising right here, but that's fine. It's a crossover between How to Train Your Dragon and Thor. As I'm sure you can guess, it involves Loki. Because Loki is Loki, and that's just how things work. It does not involve Thor, not really. He's there, but he's not a big deal. So yeah, keep that in mind. It is called A God is Only as Powerful as the Ones Who Worship Him. I feel like I sound really animatronic. Whatever. Animatronic? Robotic. I'm not sure. It's rated T. And yeah. There are no pairings. At least I don't think there are. Not right now. And I haven't updated it in a while. And I can't really remember how long it is. Apparently it's 4,000 words. Yep. There are 2 chapters. I think the first one's a lot shorter than the second. Anyways, the first one is called Worship Begins When Someone Needs Help Only You Can Give. And I'll talk about it afterwards. I'm gonna read it now. Yep. Starting off quick. Wait a second. Excuse the weird sound of me drinking liquids. Okay. A long time ago, in a place that none have seen but all have heard, a young boy was pulled by his brother into a room he knew better than any other. "Brother, why must you hurry so?" the young boy asked, ignoring the feel of bruises forming on his delicate wrist. His elder brother grinned as he finally stopped in front of a looking-glass that had seen better years. He released the younger and spread his arms grandly. "I've discovered something amazing. Look with awe and know that your big brother is clearly the best warrior in all of Asgard." The younger blinked at this proclamation before tilting his head curiously to the side. "What of father?" The elder's hands fell, and he looked slightly sheepish. "Save for father." The younger smirked before nodding in agreement. Then he turned his eyes to the looking-glass and wondered what it was that made his brother so excited. He looked for a very long moment at the image displayed before him. Then his brow furrowed, and he turned once more to his brother, who stood in a position of pride at his side. "Why must I look in awe?" His brother seemed to sag from his stance and looked at him sadly. "Are you not impressed?" The younger looked at him with confusion as he sulked. "I found it quite pleasing when it first caught my eye. Is it not something one should be happy for?" "What are you talking about? What is impressive about a village of humans?" There was a long and very frustrating pause then, as the two brothers seemed to absorb the situation together. Then, without much warning, the elder of the two started to shout. "Did you not see it? The grand display of their worship. The very thing that makes them important. Be more observant, brother, and look closer." The youngest brother was pushed closer to the glass by a heavy hand and forced to look once more at the small village of humans in front of him. He ignored the annoyance gnawing at him and searched the image for something of any importance. It didn't take too long. Surrounded by the buildings that served as the humans' homes was a statue of his elder brother. "They worship you," he whispered in astonishment. His brother seemed to swell with pride beside him. "Indeed, you see now how amazing my discovery is. These people see me as their god, just as they do father. It is something to celebrate, is it not?" "Well," the younger began, before looking at his brother's pleased expression. His fists clenched, and he smiled widely at the one who had always cared for him when everyone else did not. "It is a grand thing to celebrate. Father will surely be pleased when he hears of this. Mother as well." His brother's eyes seemed to glow with happiness. "Truly?" He barely paused as he unclenched his fist and quickly hugged the larger boy to him. "Why, of course! They will be immensely pleased and proud of you when they hear such wonderful news. And the others, well, I'm sure they will be even more impressed than myself. After all, I always knew that you would become as worshipped as father is some day. I'm happy to see that day is today. I am very proud of you, brother." He said this with more sincerity than he himself had expected. Honestly, he was rather surprised that most of these words were true. Still, he restrained himself from saying more, lest he do something he might regret. "Loki." The young wordsmith blinked in surprise when his brother enveloped him in a fierce hug. He ignored the pain of creaking ribs as he hugged Thor back. When he was finally released, he was worried that the elder would cry before he suddenly spoke. "You will celebrate at my side this night. After I tell everyone about this wonderful occasion, you must join me at the table and revel in the glory with me. I cannot enjoy such festivities without my greatest supporter there to enjoy them with me." Loki blinked before smiling and squeezing his brother's shoulders. "Of course. I would want nothing less." And with this, Thor grinned before running off to spread the news of his most recent accomplishment. Then, when Thor was long gone and nobody else remained in the great library save for himself, Loki screamed. He screamed and ranted and begged the Fates to tell him why his brother was so fortunate. He fell to his knees and sobbed like the child he no longer was and begged for the answer to his eternal struggle. Why must he always be better than me? Ah! I'm sorry. Ignore the laugh. Loki jumped in alarm and looked frantically at his surroundings. "Dear Odin, why have you punished us like this? What have we done wrong?" The boy blinked as he realized where the noise was coming from. He gazed once more into the looking glass and watched as a woman sobbed into her husband's chest as he screamed at the sky. "Stoic," the woman murmured. Her husband, for that was the only thing he could be, looked down at his wife and held a large hand to her cheek. "We will fix this. I don't care how hard it will be, but we will fix this. I will not let our child die." Loki stared in shock as he realized what was happening. The woman was heavily pregnant, but she seemed pale and sickly. She looked weak, and her stomach looked far too small. "Her baby is dying," he thought, with a heavy feeling in his heart. "She has grown ill, and now her baby will die before it even gets the chance to live." He was saddened by this thought. "Please, Gothi, is there anything we can do?" The men looked over to an old woman that Loki remembered seeing once. She was quite impressive in her own right. Although his brother had not understood the reason why at the time, he had. She was an intelligent woman, with the uncanny ability to look straight at him when he was watching her through the glass. Just as she was looking now. Except this time, she wasn't just looking at him. This time, she seemed to be pleading. Loki hesitated for a moment. He wondered briefly if he was just imagining things, but was sure that he was not. And so, he steeled himself slightly, and thought for a moment. He thought about the world he was watching, and all of the things he knew were in it. Then he found a solution. As carefully as he could, using the knowledge of worship he had learned from his mother, he pushed the idea into the old woman's head, and hoped that he had made it clear enough for her to understand. He was happy to see that he had succeeded when the woman's eyes widened in astonishment, before she nodded and started to write symbols into the sand. A few moments later, the couple left the woman's presence and hurried off to complete the seemingly impossible task they had been given. Loki spared a moment to hope that he had given the right advice, before he looked curiously at the woman. She looked right back at him, and seemed to stare into his eyes for a moment, before she bowed to him with as much grace as her little old body could muster. Thank you, God Loki, for answering my plea. I am humbled by your kindness, and hope that you will continue to be a kind and merciful God from this day on. The words were not spoken aloud, but Loki heard them as clear as a bell in his mind, and he watched, stunned, as the woman finally walked off and into her home. God. She called me God. Loki! The boy jumped and almost destroyed the looking-glass in his surprise as his brother ran in, shouting his name. When his heart had finally calmed, Loki turned to him as innocently as he could. Yes, Thor? Father has thrown a feast in celebration, just as you said he would. Come, we must hurry before they start the festivities without us. Loki remained silent at his proclamation, but allowed himself to be pulled towards the dining hall without resistance. He did not flinch at the roughness of Thor's handling, nor did he mention what had just transpired a moment ago. He simply smiled and eventually started to laugh as the realization sunk in. I am a god too. Okay, I have made the kinda sort of executive decision, but kinda not executive decision to go ahead and read the second chapter, because it hasn't been long in. And self-centered though it may be, I'm kind of fond of this story that I've written, so yep, I'm going to go ahead and read the rest. Sucks for you guys, but whatever. I apologize at laughing at the noise, but that's what was written. I apologize again. Moving on, I'm gonna read the second chapter now. The unholy offspring of lightning and death. Wait, no. I couldn't write the entirety of the chapter title on the chapter title bit, so I had to shorten it to the offspring of lightning and death. It's actually supposed to say, the unholy offspring of lightning and death itself, in a conveniently condensed human package. The celebration was wondrous, as they always were. Thor had the time of his life, which wasn't at all surprising, while Loki was miserable all throughout, which was also not at all surprising. The poor boy was relieved when it finally ended. He returned to his room feeling exhausted from both the feast and his brother's insistence that he be dragged to his own room by none other than his younger and quite a bit weaker sibling. Loki was irritated by the demand, but complied nonetheless. After all, he truly loved his elder brother, and would easily do anything for him if asked to do so. Still, that idiot, Loki grumbled as he rubbed the sore shoulder. As he rubbed the sore shoulder Thor had been leaning on moments before. How does he even get mead? I never see him approaching it, and yet it always appears in his hand. Whoever's the cause of this should be smacked and banned from the palace whenever we have feasts. He continued to grumble as he undressed and slowly prepared himself for bed. Night had fallen long ago, but the celebration hadn't even ended yet. The only reason why he wasn't still there was because of his brother suddenly falling off of his seat and onto their mother's lap. She had immediately told both boys to head off to their rooms and sleep, much to their father's dismay. But of course, Thor was far too drunk from the mysteriously appearing mead to get to his room on his own. This left only one solution to the problem. Loki had to escort Carrie, his brother, back to his bedroom by himself. And although Loki was not so weak as to be incapable of such a task, it was still rather difficult to control the path of someone as large and strong as Thor when he was so drunk that he couldn't even tell what realm he was currently in. Loki sighed as he fell onto his bed with a soft little thump. He looked at the ceiling and simply stared, waiting for his mind to settle after such a long evening. So much had happened in the space of a few short hours. He needed a moment to fully digest it all. Ugh, gross. Sorry. Quick water break. Again, apologies for the noise. Ugh. I apologize for the nose. I really do. Sorry. Okay. A banging on his door woke him up the next morning. His wardrobe immediately caught fire from his knee-jerk reaction before he realized what was happening and quickly put it out. The door burst open, and he wasn't surprised when his brother ran in and tackled him onto the sheets. They struggled with each other for a moment before Loki finally managed to gain the upper hand and use the soft fabric to pin it. Pete's sake! And used the soft fabric to pin his brother to the bed. Thor struggled minutely with his new bonds before giving up and relaxing into the comfortable mattress. He grinned up at his little brother. Good morning, Loki. I hope you slept well. Loki smiled kindly at the elder while he sat on his stomach. Good morning, Thor. I slept quite well last night, thank you for asking. Yourself? Ah, I had the most wonderful dream about fighting those large-scale beasts in the human world. Dragons? Loki tilted his head as he released the magic keeping his brother in place and carefully slid off of the muscled abdomen beneath him. Thor nodded and sat up, his arms flailing slightly in excitement. Yes, those creatures! The elder brother shouted at the younger's curious expression. I was fighting one of them with nothing but my fists, and I could feel that I was a great and powerful warrior that had seen many battles just as grand as this one. Really? Were you not yourself? Loki was not surprised when his brother failed to catch the implied insult in his words. No, I think that I may have been one of those humans from the looking glass, Thor continued, unhindered, before looking at his brother curiously. Do you think that it may have been a vision of one of my worshippers? At this, Loki paused and thought. He had heard their mother say that she would sometimes have visions of her worshippers when they were praying to her. She would usually just hear voices, but a vision would appear before her eyes at times, especially during sleep. After thinking her words over in his mind, Loki relayed the information back to his brother. Thor practically leapt from the bed in his excitement and ran out to tell their parents about his very first vision. He did not stop to thank his brother, or even say goodbye, but Loki did not mind. Thor could get easily excited at times and end up forgetting that Loki was even there. And, although Loki would appreciate such things, he didn't really mind being ignored sometimes. It was a small price to pay for the usual devotion that the elder had towards his younger sibling. Dear Loki, let the dragon be kind to the two of them. The sudden voice caused the boy to freeze for a moment in surprise. He had almost forgotten about her. The old woman from the human world. His very first worshipper. She's praying to me, he thought, with a slow-building smile. I can hear her prayers. Then his smile fell, and he ran around the room, getting dressed as quickly as he could before he left and made his way towards the library. As was the usual, nobody else was in the large room filled with knowledge. As well kept as it was, the only person in the kingdom who really enjoyed spending time there was Loki. After all, Asgard was known for its many grand warriors, not its few great scholars. Regardless of how sad this fact may have been, it suited the boy's purpose well enough. It would be difficult to use the glass when there were people around to distract him from his work, and this work was far too important for him to allow distractions. Thor will be spending his day accepting praise from the rest of the kingdom, so I should have until sunset to complete my task before he might distract me. Loki frowned as he placed one delicate and powerful hand onto the dark surface in front of him. Hopefully. The glass flashed for a moment before the light and color settled into an image. What if this doesn't work? What if the beast simply eats us both and feeds our children to its own? Loki flinched at the sudden voice and harsh words it spoke. Though he couldn't blame the man for doubting, it was still a rather grim thing to say to one's pregnant wife. Perhaps this is normal conversation for them, he wondered, when the woman simply replied to her husband with calm reassurance. I've discovered a very odd pair of humans to help. This is also possible. The thought did not stay around long enough for him to truly consider it, though. He was forced to ignore it and quickly move on to his intended task when the humans decided to continue on their trek towards the top of the mountain they were currently climbing. He would have to be quick and finish it before they reached their destination. He wasn't sure if the dragon he had intended them to see was truly friendly or not. In fact, if he were to be completely honest, he wasn't altogether sure if the creature would even think of them as civilized or not. This could be problematic in a multitude of ways. Loki moved the image away and replaced it with another. He looked upon the inside of a very beautiful cave, filled with stones that glowed blue and purple with flame. Surrounded by these stones was a great dragon as dark as night. Her body was easily the size of a horse and shaped quite similarly to that of a salamander. Large wings went where fast and powerful flying rested on the creature's back as it slept peacefully. For a moment, then, Loki felt slightly guilty for disturbing her. The poor thing was obviously tired. Why that was, he wasn't sure, but he knew that it would likely continue to cause her trouble in the future. Still, the humans needed help, and they needed it now, before the child perished in the wake of its mother's ill health. And so, with a gentle tugging of guilt in his heart, Loki spoke to the sleeping dragon. I feel like I ought to read some of this differently, but my mouth is not very happy with all this. As I said, I'm kind of tired. Okay, sorry. Mother of fast-flying night breeds, hear my call and wake from your slumber. His voice seemed to boom from within the cave, though he knew that only the dragon would hear him. She flinched at the sound, but did not stir for a moment. Then, with a quiet huff, the large blue eyes that held the same blue and purple flames of the cave's own walls opened and turned to look straight at him. The two beings stared at each other for a moment. The silence between them was tense, but the dragon eventually closed her eyes and, with a gusty sigh, slowly sat up to properly face him. When she looked him in the eyes again, the dragon looked simply curious instead of angry. Greetings, beings from the Elder Realm. Greetings, being from the Outer Realms. I've heard your call. Now tell me why it is that you have appeared before me this day. Her voice was regal and reminded him heavily of his mother. It made him feel slightly less worried about her reaction to his question. I have a request. The dragon blinked before tilting her head and giving him a confused look. Whatever could you request of me that you cannot gain yourself? I'm looking to gain anything. I'm not looking to gain anything, save for the loyalty of my worshippers. Do you speak of those humans on the empty isle to the north? Yes, though only one of them worship me. This human has asked me for something that I cannot provide without your aid. Well, what is this thing you have been asked to provide? Loki sighed and looked at the dragon with regretful eyes. The survival of a child. The dragon's eyes widened as she seemed to realize what he was asking for. She whined deep in her throat and curled her tail around the two small objects she had been sleeping with. Then, she looked back at him with so much sadness in her eyes, he felt like his heart was ripping in two. Why must you ask this of me? He hesitated, before answering her with more honesty than he had ever given to anyone, save for his mother. I want this child to live with my guidance. I'm hoping that it will know me as the one who helped it live and think of me as their rightful god. I want to save the unborn being that will one day become my most loyal worshipper. The dragon whined once more as she nudged the small eggs at her feet. Then, without looking at him, she pushed one of the eggs further into the cave. The other remained with her. I will accept your request, though I ask you to provide me with one in return. Loki nodded. Of course. If there is anything I can help with, I will do so without complaint. He froze as she looked at him with pleading eyes that seemed to amplify the strange surging of strength that entered him at that moment. Let them know one another. Excuse me? The young god almost jumped in surprise when the dragon shouted at him. Please, let my children know each other. Let them know that they have family. Even if they live as opposite forces, let them know each other as the siblings they were meant to be. Heavy drops of boiling water fell from her eyes as she screamed. Loki's heart went out to the poor mother. She only wished for the happiness of her children. Both of her children. He could not deny her this courtesy. He bowed to the dragon, who stared at him in shock as he spoke. If it is what you wish, I will guarantee the meeting of your two children. Regardless of circumstances, I will make sure that the two learn of their relation to each other. I swear upon my own life that they will know each other as the siblings they are. And he gasped as the strength from before surged again. When the feeling settled, he rose from his bow and looked into the eyes of his second worshipper. Thank you, God Loki. I will help this family, just as you have asked, and raise my remaining child to be strong enough to meet their sibling in the future. She said this with a deep and humbled bow, before raising her head to look steadily into his eyes. And I will teach him of your strength and kindness. I will show him the proper path as a worshipper of the great god Loki. Although you would never admit this, Loki blushed slightly at her words. He smiled and nodded to her in thanks. Then, as his mouth opened to continue the conversation, the sound of human footsteps reached both of their ears, and the dragon turned to face the new arrivals. The two froze when they saw her, and Loki watched as the man started to reach for the axe at his side. But his hand was stopped by the much smaller hands of his wife. She looked him steadily in the eye before she walked ahead and bowed before the dragon. "Dear beast of the night, I beg of you to hear my plea." There was a beat of silence as the woman waited for some kind of response. Then, "I am listening, human." "By Odin, it speaks!" the man gasped. The woman rose from her bow without showing her surprise. "I am ill, dragon, and heavily with child. Our healer has told me that my child will not survive long enough to be born if I continue to carry it as I am." She paused, holding her arms over her stomach. When she looked up at the dragon, her eyes were determined and sad. It reminded Loki of the dragon's own expression from mere moments ago. "But I can save my baby if you provide me with your aid." The dragon cooed at the poor woman that reminded her very much of herself. She ignored the shocked looks she received from the two humans as she lowered herself towards her fellow mother. After a hesitant pause, the woman reached a hand out to the dragon and restrained herself from jumping back when it was met with the dark creature's scaled head. The dragon allowed her hands to wander before looking the mother in the eye once more. "I understand your pain, and I will help you if you agree to let me see the child when it is born." The woman blinked in surprise. "Is that all?" "Yes, that is all I ask for. If you do me this one courtesy, I will save your child." "Why do you ask this of us, dragon?" The two females looked at the man in surprise. They had almost forgotten he was there. "I want to know the child that was almost my own." "Your own?" "Yes. This child will only survive by taking the life of my own. It will take on the years my egg would have had. In exchange for this, I want to meet the child that would have been my own, if things had been different." The two humans looked at the dragon with surprise. Then a smile appeared on the mother's face as she nodded. "Of course. You deserve to know them. They are your child, just as much as they are mine." She held her husband's hand in her own and placed the other over her heart in a solemn gesture. "I promise you that I will return with my child and personally introduce you as his second mother." The man seemed ready to protest, but he stopped when he saw the boiling tears falling from the dragon mother's eyes. "Thank you. Truly you are a human deserving of the child I have borne." And the dragon pushed the egg towards them and allowed herself to lay down. "Take my egg and drink the fluid within its shell. When you feel lightning in your gullet, remain still, and your child will be guaranteed survival. Though I will not promise good health for either of you." "Very well," the woman said, as her husband picked up the large, deep blue egg. "I will trust your words." Then, the egg was cracked open by the large man's axe, and his wife poured the thick, black fluid down her throat. When the liquid had been completely consumed, she placed the empty eggshell onto the ground in front of her. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, the woman gasped and screamed. Her back arched painfully, and she clutched at her stomach tightly as she screamed loud enough to make Loki's ears ring. "Stop!" the dragon shouted as she grabbed the woman's husband with her tail. He struggled in an attempt to help his wife, but froze when the dragon looked into his eyes. "You must not interfere. If you break the connection, you will kill both of them. Your wife will only live if you wait for her to conquer the pain." The man looked back at his screaming wife. She had remained still, just as the dragon had ordered. "What is happening to her?" She glanced at the woman on the ground, sympathy filling her bright blue eyes. "She is accepting the blood of a dragon into her womb. That means accepting the flames we are born with into her own body. It is the only way for her to properly birth my young. Unfortunately, it is incredibly painful." "When will it stop?" "When her body has accepted the flames." The dragon looked around at the stone around her. Glowing blue and purple rock filled with the fire of dragons past. Then she looked at the mother in front of her. "She is a strong human. I'm sure that it will end quickly for her. So wait for your mate. She will return to you soon." With this said, she placed the large human back onto his feet and continued to wait for the screaming to end. After a small moment of hesitation, the man joined her, and Loki watched anxiously through the glass. It took only 3 minutes for the screaming to stop. The woman gasped in a harsh breath before collapsing from exhaustion. Her husband almost ran towards her, but he stopped long enough to silently ask the dragon for permission. A nod was all he needed. As he held his trembling wife close, Loki could hear the woman's quiet mumbling. "It died, Stoic. I felt its heart stop beating, and then the lightning struck my insides." Heavy tears fell from her eyes as she smiled. "But then I felt it start back again. I felt its rebirth. Volga. It was beautiful." Ugh. Okay, so I always get congested when I talk for too long. You didn't need to know that, but that's okay. Anyways, I'm probably gonna end the episode soon. I'm so tired. I can't keep doing this now. Not right now. I'm so exhausted. Man, that was hard. That was a lot longer than I thought it was. Okay, so for those of you who don't know, How to Train Your Dragon is a really good movie, in my opinion. I don't really like the second one that much. I mean, it's good by itself, but I don't like how the story went. I don't like the fact that, spoilers, Stoic dies, or the fact that Toothless did it. I don't like how things ended up. I don't like what they did with, like... I don't like the Hiccup and Astrid pairing. That's not to say that I prefer another pairing, although honestly Toothcup's kind of fun on occasion. But, honestly, I don't feel like Hiccup's one of those people to get in a relationship with a person. Toothless either. I feel like they're kind of just by themselves, as siblings together. Which is why this is happening. By the way, Toothless and Hiccup are brothers. At least in this. Awesome. Bet you didn't know that was a thing. Well, now it is. Great. Oh, man. So, How to Train Your Dragon, if you don't know, then you have no idea what I'm talking about. But How to Train Your Dragon is a movie about dragons. Yep. Surprise, surprise. It's based off a book series, which is actually a pretty interesting book series. It's technically a children's book series, but I personally am a big fan. I have all of the books, and they're great. So, the entire story is about this kid named Hiccup. And he is the Hiccup of his, Viking, sorry, I couldn't remember the word, of his Viking tribe. He is the smallest, the runt of the litter, and the most unwanted, which is really depressing and kind of messed up, but it's the truth. So his name is Hiccup, and that is why. And he is the chief's son, which makes it worse. So, in the movie, it's different from the books, because in the books, it's, something else completely. But in the movie, Hiccup tries to kill a dragon because in the movie series, they try to kill dragons because dragons are evil there and they always take food and kill them. And it's kill or be killed, and dragons are pests. So, Hiccup, because he is the most unwanted Viking ever to have ever existed in that tribe, poor thing, he decides he's going to fix that by taking down the biggest, baddest dragon that there has ever been known. Or at least that has ever been kind of spotted over by his tribe. And that dragon is called the Night Fury, which is this really cool dragon that is my favorite dragon design ever. He's completely black. He's like a salamander except with wings and a tail. And he's really quiet. He flies really fast. He has huge wings. And he breathes purple fire, which is awesome. So yeah. Hiccup succeeds in taking down the Night Fury, kind of on accident. However, he does cause more problems afterwards, and ends up getting banished to his house for a while. and then he leaves to go find the Night Fury, which he does succeed in doing, but he doesn't actually kill the Night Fury. He finds the dragon, and instead of killing him when he has the chance, he decides to let it go. And the dragon, in turn, almost kills him, but decides not to at the last second, and then goes off into this little pit in the ground. Hiccup returns a while later and finds out that the dragon is still there. And he starts becoming interested, wondering what is going on with the dragon, why he's stuck in that pit, why he's just there, all of the different facts he could find out about him. And then Hiccup seems to realize that the reason why the dragon's in there is because his tail was messed up. When Hiccup shot down the dragon, originally, he tore off a part of the dragon's tail fin, which was essential for him to fly. And if he couldn't fly, he couldn't go get food, he couldn't protect himself. He was just stuck inside of this little hole in the ground. So Hiccup, feeling guilty and wanting to help out his new dragon friend, who, yes, he does actually make friends with the dragon, and decides to call him Toothless because he's able to retract his teeth, which is awesome. So yeah, after making friends with the dragon, with Toothless, Hiccup decides he's going to help him by making him a new tail, which he does. However, there is a problem. He doesn't know how to make... It doesn't really work because it's just a flap of leather. And neither he nor Toothless know how to control it without, well, Hiccup being involved with holding it open for him. So Hiccup decides, I'm going to have to make a different way to do this. I'm going to have to stay on Toothless in order to help him fly. So he makes a saddle and he makes a rigging system, and he creates this way so that he can ride Toothless. And Toothless can fly. So they learn how to do this through a lot of trial and error and tons of fun times, and then people discover Toothless. They find out that they actually were friends. And when Hiccup is told to kill a dragon in this sort of arena that he's been training in, that he's been training for so long, he says no, and he tries to befriend the dragon in front of all of these people in his village. But then the dragon gets startled by a noise made by his dad, and it decides to attack him, which is when Toothless hears him scream and comes running to protect him, which he does, except then everyone sees Toothless and takes him down because Hiccup doesn't want anything bad to happen to Toothless, but he doesn't want anything bad to happen to his tribe either. And Toothless just wants to keep Hiccup safe. So he gets taken down and taken away, and they discover that using Toothless, they can find the island of the dragons, where all of them are, and try to kill them there, which is what they do. However, there is this huge queen there. It's like a beehive, where all the dragons are workers, and there's this huge monster of a dragon that is the queen, that they have been trying to feed and take care of this entire time. So Hiccup goes there with the other dragons in the arena, and all of the other teenagers he was kinda, sorta, but not really friends with in the story, and they save everyone. But in order to take down the dragon, Hiccup almost dies and ends up losing a foot, which is kind of ironic because it's basically the equivalent of Toothless losing his tail fin. It's even on the same side, which I always thought was kind of funny. They're like the same. It's great. It's adorable. I love that. And they become ridiculously close. It's great. So yeah, that's basically the entire first movie. I'm not going to explain the second one because I wasn't a big fan of the second one. I watched it once in the movie theater, which was awesome. It was great. Hiccup learns how to fly, which is amazing. I'm not going to explain that, but it's true. So yeah, I really like How to Train Your Dragon, just because the design of it, dragons are one of my favorite things ever. Hiccup's awesome, and so is Toothless, and both of them combined is just fantastic. And I'm a sucker for those kind of relationships. They're not like a couple relationship. Instead, it's more like two partners or two siblings that are ridiculously close and they're connected and they can't let go of each other. I love that. It's great. I don't have that relationship with anybody, but if I did, I would not want to let go of it for anything. It's just, it's awesome to imagine that these two people or these two beings can be so close to each other that they're practically the same person. They're just so intertwined with each other. It's great. I love it. I can imagine them being soulmates, but not in a romantic kind of way. They're just part of each other, and that's pretty much it. So yeah. And I have a fondness for Loki from Thor, which I'm not going to bother explaining because honestly, I'm not a big fan of Thor, and this isn't exactly canon towards Thor. So, yeah. And honestly, I've always sided with Loki. Honestly, in his position, I wouldn't have gone quite so far out, but I can totally understand why he was so angry. Especially because all the things that happened at that time, it all happened at once. He found out he was an orphan. He got, like, dissed by basically everybody. He's been tortured with, like, social exile by everyone except for his brother for years. And all this time he's thinking, like, I'm different, and then he finds this realization that he is actually different. Like, he isn't even completely Asgardian. He's not normal like the others, and he realizes this, and then his father, quote unquote, tells him the truth right afterwards, and all this stuff is happening, and then he panics and freaks out, and what else is he supposed to do? Thor's gone, and everything's in chaos. How else was he supposed to react to all of this? Honestly, I'm not at all surprised that the things happened the way they did. Loki was lonely and sad and kind of deranged. You're bound to be a little bit insane when you're as smart as Loki. And really, I don't blame him for everything he did. I don't even blame him for everything that happened afterwards and, like, Avengers and all that, because that was not his fault. It is really obvious to see the fact that he was tortured by Thanos and the Chitauri, and he was basically beaten into submission and then hypnotized and forced to do all of this. And I feel really bad for Loki. I don't blame him for anything that he did. Honestly, if given the chance, I would forgive him. It's not his fault. It's just what happened. So yeah, I have a certain fondness for Loki, and honestly, I feel like he is a very good person. He's just really, really lonely. Poor Loki. Yeah, I like Loki. I don't care if that seems really weird and fangirly. I don't care if that's dumb. I like Loki. He's one of my favorites. As well as Tony Stark. And I feel like they'd be great friends. So yeah. I decided to include him in this because I feel like Loki should get more love, one thing. Though admittedly he has a lot, I feel like he should get love for different reasons than just because he looks good. And it fit this. I feel like Loki and Hiccup and Toothless would get along really well. And nobody really worships Loki for the right reasons, in my opinion, because Loki's not all like, oh, prankster god, lol. No, he's really smart, and he focuses on all of this knowledge and this education and all of this intellect, and he's not just the god of pranks, he's Loki's silver tongue. He has the silver tongue thing going for him, you know? That's his thing. That's who he is. He lies. He does all this trickery and stuff, but that doesn't mean it's supposed to be pranks all the time. It can be more serious things. It could be more interesting things. It could be cooler things. So yeah, I don't know. I just thought that it would be interesting seeing Loki interact with the world of How to Train Your Dragon and cause this. And I've always wanted, in the back of my mind, it to be canon where Toothless and Hiccup are actually siblings. That's just something that I've always wanted. And you know, this isn't the most far-fetched thing to believe. I really would not be at all surprised if this was actually what was happening. So yeah. Anyways, I've been talking for 45 minutes, and my tongue and my throat and my lips are tired, and I'm kind of done with things. You can probably hear it in my voice. I'm lacking oxygen. My nose is getting stuffed up. Yeah, it's been a long day. It's been a really long day and weird day too. And I'm tired and I could do with hanging out and relaxing and looking through my old favorites on DeviantArt. I was gonna read another fan fiction, an Artemis Fowl one, but much though I love Artemis, and I really do, Artemis Fowl is one of my favorite book series. I figure I'd tell you about that next week, maybe. Yeah, you know what? Next week I'm just gonna focus on Artemis Fowl unless anyone asks otherwise, because I have tons of Artemis Fowl fanfic that I can read. Yeah, I'm not really in the mood to read anymore, and I only have 14 minutes anyways. I've read to you a decent amount, right? And it was a pretty good fanfiction. If I were to rate my own thing, I'd rate that it was maybe like, maybe a 4. Yeah, 4. I'd rate it a 4. Because I thought it was interesting. Worst comes to worst, it's more along the lines of a 3.7, but yeah, I'd rate it a 4. I think it was pretty good. I read some pretty bad fanfiction. Speaking of, I'm gonna read some pretty bad fanfiction on Friday, so you should probably go away and ignore that completely. Or you should come in and check it out and see people lick each other's organs. That's creepy as crap. That's your thing, though. Good for you. Yep. So, I'm messing around, by the way, with, like, how I read it. I want to do voices, but it's weird when there's, like, multiple characters, because I can only do so many without putting in a lot of effort, and I'm talking for a very long time, all by myself. It's really hard. So, yeah, I might do voices, but mostly it's just going to be a slight change in inflection. A little bit, maybe diction, a little bit, but not much. Possibly a change in tone. I try, but not that hard, because it hurts my voice, and my mouth, so yeah. Speaking of, I'm so done with this right now. I'm losing the ability to talk, so I'm going to leave. Thank you for watching this, listening to it, whatever you decided to do. Whatever's happening to you right now, I hope you go to the description, you look, and you see that the schedule's still a thing, that Mixler is still a thing, and all that good stuff. Oh, by the way, a quick warning. Saturday's going to be happening a lot earlier than expected. It's not going to be 10. It's actually going to be happening at, at least this week specifically. It's probably going to be more along the lines of 10 later on, but for now, because I have, wait, no, it's not, is it? No, it's not. Sorry, I thought I had a schedule conflict. But no, it's fine. However, Sunday might be a bit later than expected, which should be fine, I think. I hope. I apologize for it being later than expected, but honestly, there's not a lot of you actually listening to this anyways, so it doesn't really matter when it happens. I haven't even put the video from yesterday up on YouTube yet, which is great. I'm behind, but that's not my fault. I've actually managed to talk for a really long time. Okay, so anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and go. Things are normal this week except for Sunday, which should be a bit later than usual, but not by too much, I don't think. And I'm gonna be reading My Immortal. Yeah, I don't know how much of that I'll be reading, but I will be reading that because of a suggestion given by a friend. Unfortunately. So yeah, I'll be doing that. In the meantime, it has been movie, TV, book day, and I have read from movies and books. Not really TV. Kinda TV, because How to Train Your Dragon had a show, but it hasn't really gotten into that in the first place. So yeah, I read something for something today. That's great. And tomorrow is Superhero Day. Woo! So it's just going to be Avengers stuff. I'll admit, it's also going to start off with just Tony Stark, because I love Iron Man more than anything else. I really do. So yeah. I might do a Big Hero 6 one, because that technically counts as a superhero one. So yeah, I might do that tomorrow. And possibly a Tiger and Bunny one, because I love Tiger and Bunny, and that also qualifies as a superhero one. It also qualifies as manga, admittedly, but meh. So on that note, I'm gonna go, because I'm tired, and I could do with maybe getting a snack. Stop talking. Drink some liquids. Read that Portal fanfiction that I started reading yesterday. I'm really enjoying it, but it's taking me a long time to actually finish reading it. So yeah, I'm gonna go. I hope you have a nice day. I hope you enjoyed the podcast. I hope that if I have been talking, please comment and like YouTube, or even just pop up on the next podcast on Mixler. Comment then. Do what you want. But yeah, tell me if there are problems, if I suck at this or not, if you want me to do something else, if you want more guests, if you want any. If you just are fine with how things are, tell me what you think. If you want something specific, anything of any kind, tell me. I'll see what I can do. Make no promises, but again, I'll see what I can do. If you want me to stop drinking water, tell me. I'll try to find a way to drink it without you hearing me. Yep, I'll make a noise. And I'll do something else. I don't know. I'll figure it out. We'll see what happens. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you have a good day. I hope you had a good day. I'm gonna go now. I am Iridice and this is the Fan Official Audiobook, and it is Wednesday today, the very third episode. Woo! It's gonna be number 4, episode of Death, tomorrow. So yeah, may the 4th be with you. I'm gonna go now. Goodbye. Have a nice day. I love all of you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for actually staying around long enough to hear me say this sort of outro-ish thing. Kind of. Not really. This isn't a very official thing, is it? Nope. Okay. I'm gonna go. Bye!